My name is Isabel Chase, and today I'll be presenting my life history interview featuring my grandmother, Sheila Chase. Here I uploaded an image of us. I got to go visit her last Saturday, which was really nice to go interview her because she's currently in a rehabilitation center. So I'm just going to go over some of her responses to all of the questions I asked her. For early life and family, she grew up in a very old school traditional family. She said we didn't have much, but we had what we needed. Life was very simple and centered around home, family, and hard work. Her mother was a housewife and her father was a mechanic. Her mother stayed home, cooked, cleaned, took care of kids, and her father was always working long hours. She mentioned that he taught her the value of hard work and responsibility. From both of her parents, she learned to be strong and to put family first and to be grateful for what you have. My grandmother was born in 1939 in Malden, Massachusetts. When she was little, she lived in a country style home on farmland. I've heard many, many stories about all of her stories on the farm. It was a very simple house surrounded by fields, is what she mentioned. She remembers having to walk miles to get places because they didn't have a car. At one point, their house burnt down when she was very young, which was very hard on the family, but they managed to get through it. Education and work. My grandmother did not go to traditional school like most kids. She was homeschooled, which was very common back then for people who lived on the farmlands so far from everything. She learned mostly at home from her mother. A lot of her learning came from helping around the house, watching her parents, and figuring things out as she went along. In her 20s, she mentioned that she was a bartender, especially after she moved to California. She did that for a good part of her young life. Later on, became a housewife. She was very old-fashioned, from what I found out. And her husband, my grandfather, worked while she stayed home and took care of the house, cooked, and raised her son, my father. When my grandmother was a bartender, it gave her lots of stories to tell. She mentioned she met all kinds of people, regulars who came in every day, travelers passing through, and friends that she still remembers. She learned to listen to people, to read the room, and to handle herself in a busy, sometimes noisy environment. Those years taught me a lot about people and patience, is what she said. Over time, she mentioned when I was younger, most women were expected to stay at home, especially after they got married. Now it's much more common for women to work outside of the home, build their own careers, and be independent. Work has also changed with technology, computers, internet, and phones, which have all changed how people do almost everything. She also never had a driver's license. She mentioned my grandpa would drive her everywhere. So yeah, she would walk everywhere my grandfather would take her. Some life milestones my grandmother spoke about. One of her biggest milestones in life was having her beautiful son Raymond. He's my father, and she mentioned that being his mom is one of the things she's most proud of. Another big milestone was moving from Massachusetts to California when she was about 35. It was a big change and a brave step at the time. And also marrying her husband, David, which was another huge moment in life. She mentioned, I met my husband, David Chase, while I was bartending in California. We fell in love and later got married on January 23rd, 1977, in Reno, Nevada. I never knew that, so that was very interesting finding that out from her. It wasn't a huge fancy wedding, but it was special to us over the years. Some of my favorite memories are meeting and spending time with my wonderful grandchildren, Josh, Evan, David, and Isabel. That's me and my brothers. Watching all of you grow up has been one of the greatest joys of my life. When she was younger, holidays were spent at home on the farm with her family. They didn't travel or really go out anywhere. Social and cultural changes. She's mentioned she's seen a lot of change. When she was growing up, women were mostly expected to stay home, get married, and raise children. Now, women have more opportunities to work, go to college, and choose their own paths. She's seen big changes in how people talk about race and sexuality. There used to be so much more open discrimination, and many things were kept quiet or hidden. She said that she grew up in a shadow of World War II and heard a lot of stories about it from older family members. She lived through the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and the Women's Rights Movement, which changed a lot for women's roles in society. Later in life, things like 9/11 and all the changes in politics and the economy have shaped the world, she said, my children and grandchildren grew up in. Technological advancements. When she was young, she didn't have television at first. Later, they were black and white with just a few channels. Phones were attached to the walls, and you had to share party lines sometimes. There were no computers, no internet, no cell phones. Over the years, I've seen color TVs, microwaves, cassette tapes, VCRs, CDs, and computers, cell phones, and now smartphones. All of these have made things faster and easier in some ways. Staying in touch with family, getting news, and keeping entertained. She said the first time she's seen television, it felt amazing. Later, microwaves felt like magic, being able to heat food so quickly. Then computers and the internet changed everything. Travel and leisures. Back then, she mentioned she did not travel a lot in terms of vacations. I feel like that was very common for most people. But she did make the big move from Massachusetts to California. That move changed my life and set the stage for my future. California became my home. Most of my travel memories are road trips or visits with family rather than big, faraway places. My grandmother said I love taking her favorite hobbies and interests. She loves taking her dogs on walks. She loves cooking. Every time we have family dinners, she's always up to bring something. She loves to read, especially magazines, and do morning word searches and puzzles. She loves to keep her mind busy and staying up to date on the news. Family and relationships. My grandmother met her husband, David Chase, when she was bartending here in California. He was charming and kind, and we connected right away. We eventually got married on January 23rd, 1977, in Reno, Nevada. Our relationship had its ups and downs like any marriage, but we built a life together, raised our son, and shared many memories of love and companionship together. Some advice she gave was to stay in touch. Don't wait for the right time. Call, visit, send messages. Tell people you love them. Be there for each other. Forgive when you can, and try to be kind. Family doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be a place of love and support. My grandma has been a very healthy person most of her life, and she's still going strong. She has had asthma her whole life. She's also broken her hip a number of times, but somehow bounces back. She mentioned keeping my mind active has been important. I read magazines every day, do word searches, and keep up with the news. I also stay active by walking my dogs and doing things around the house, staying curious, staying connected to family, and trying to keep a positive attitude have all benefited and helped her. I think it's very important that she's been keeping her mind busy. Some reflections on aging. She mentioned when you're young, you don't think much about getting old. It feels so far away. And as I've grown, I've learned that aging comes with challenges, but you learn from those. She mentioned life goes by faster than you think. Be kind because you never know what someone is going through. Don't hold grudges if you can help it. They only weigh you down. My grandma said she wants her husband, my grandfather, and her grandchildren to know that I love them very much and that I am so, so proud of everything they have done and who they are. My hope is that they remember me as someone who loved her family and did her best. Another advice or words of wisdom is to take your time figuring out who you are, work hard, but don't forget to live your life and enjoy it. Save a little money, be smart and with your choices, and don't be afraid to ask for help. My grandma was not very big and still is not big in getting involved in the community. I would say she's more of a homebody and only hangs out with my grandfather or family. She mentioned she wasn't involved in formal volunteer work, but tried to help where she could, whether it was helping neighbors, supporting my son's activities, or being there for friends and family. My community was often my family, my neighborhood, and people I saw regularly. Being part of a community, even in small ways, helps you feel less alone. Some personal achievements. She's proud of raising her son and seeing him grow, and seeing him build a life. She mentioned at this point in life, my biggest wish is to see my grandchildren grow and to be happy and to find their own paths, which is something she tells me every day, and every time I talk to her, she's so proud of me. So that is very good to know.